Hi there. This is part of my ongoing coverage of the big report that just came out in Entertainment Weekly on House of the Dragon. That they sent their new reporter, Nick Romano, to the set for 3 days, and he did the first big interviews with the cast and the new showrunner. And then he's presenting all of them. And I said in the first part, which is more of an overview, I said if I reported on every issue that came up from these, my report would be an hour long, and a lot of the specific points would get lost in the shuffle and wouldn't get discussed. So my plan was, I said, I'm going to make a series of smaller videos around each major point in my notes. The through line of different issues, that I'm busting it up into smaller points. This one is on casting news that came out of these reports. All of which is contained in this one glorious promo photo of the Great Council at Harrenhal, being presided over by King Jaehaerys. Jaehaerys Targaryen, who is such a massive figure. He's the longest-serving king. He served for 55 years. He's the grandson of Aegon the Conqueror, grandfather of Rhaenyra's father, Viserys, who's the king in Season 1. All of his sons died, so he's immediately succeeded by Rhaenyra's father, his grandson. And so much of Fire and Blood is him that a lot of it is prequel novellas that Martin wrote in the early 2010s, like around 2012. He wrote like The Princess and the Queen for an unrelated project, but he said, I'm going to make a linker chapter or two about Jaehaerys for Fire and Blood, because it's the one thing he wrote about. The conquest, he wrote about the Dance of the Dragons. He said, I'll fill in some stuff in the long era of peace under Jaehaerys, which turned into a quarter of the book. It's 200 pages. And it's interesting, and most of it's logical, like the first 10 years after he became king, the first 10 years after the wars ended, after the Faith Militant Rising ended, dealing with the aftermath of that, which is good to tie up the loose ends. And then the next couple of chapters are shorter and just skip through, and then these are his children, and this is stuff that happened. It was mostly an era of peace. But it was interesting character study stuff, because the way Martin wrote the novellas, like the Conquest one was pretty cut and dry, because he thought it'd be a sidebar. Then by the time he got to the later novellas, there was more dialogue. These things he wrote for Fire and Blood, he knew this wasn't a sidebar, so there's a lot more dialogue in the Jaehaerys chapters, there's a lot more characterization. It's the most recent thing Martin has written for all of this that's in print. But Jaehaerys, he's such a big character, and the article does point out, yeah, in the books, he doesn't physically preside over the Great Council, he's still in King's Landing. This is a minor change. I don't think anyone would have a problem with it. We're excited about, yeah, put in Jaehaerys coming there. I don't think they're implying that he presided over the entire council, which lasted, for days. Just, okay, he would show up for when they present the final tally and the official results. Like, we see that in the teaser where they're, like, walking ballot boxes up to the front of the aisle. Yeah, he would be there when they present that. Now, in the books, it's like, either he didn't think it would be appropriate to go, or he was really old at that point and didn't want to travel. I'm not sure which, but it's not like they're inventing an active role for him, that the whole point was this was him standing back and going, okay, to avoid a civil war, you guys vote on who should be my heir, and I will abide by your decision. So as long as they're not, like, inventing something really huge for him, yeah, he would show up for the ceremonial official presentation of the final results. That's a really good idea. I would do that. That is my measure of this. I would do that. As, Benioff and Weiss abused this, but there is such a thing as the need for condensation in adaptation. And they took it too far in many cases, that this isn't condensation. You wanted to do this. But yeah, you condense it to have Jaehaerys in the first one. And this is great because it really opens up, physically having him on screen opens up other prequel eras later, that when they eventually do like a Conquest through Faith Militant Uprising prequel, it'll end with a teenage Jaehaerys, and you'll know who he is. They're like, when you're dealing with TV-only viewers, they focus on people they see in flesh and blood. I mean, the Mad King was not seen on screen in Game of Thrones, and even there were like flashbacks to him in Season 6, which were brief. Season 1, imagine how much more focused it would be if you saw like a flashback or two, which they originally planned on doing. That in this, the impact of just them discussing Jaehaerys as a name versus he's this old wise king that we see at the beginning. People will catch on to that, and it's easier in a visual medium. You need to show him, and I fully agree. Tell me in the comments. I don't think anyone has a problem with Jaehaerys being there. That's exciting. Now, in terms of the casting news, there's who else is in this photo? There's Jaehaerys, and there's Aemma Arryn, Rhaenyra's mother, Aemma Arryn, first wife of Viserys. That she is in here now. This is our first look at her. Turns out she has Valyrian white hair, which is, she's half Targaryen on her mother's side. That he married his first cousin, which is not considered incest in Westeros, but I digress. Now, here's the thing. Tell me in the comments, do you remember weeks ago when I said there's this leak I've heard that actress Sean Brooke is playing Aemma Arryn? It's confirmed now. The leak was accurate. Sean Brooke, she's been in a lot of stuff. She played Sherlock's crazy sister in the Benedict Cumberbatch Sherlock show. She's well known for that, but she's actually done a lot of things. Yes, that leak was accurate with that Sean Brooke will be Aemma. Other thing is, the same leak source did say who was playing Jaehaerys. But they also said, this is too big of a leak. Do not share this. It would get us in trouble. So I agreed. Tell me in the comments if you remember that I was hinting on like my channel's community tab or over Twitter. I said, I'll give you a hint. It's an actor who's been in a Star Wars movie who had speaking lines. Not a huge role, but had speaking lines in a Star Wars movie, and is an old man now, that they could play Jaehaerys without age makeup. But also that you would not recognize them. Like, in contrast, like Julian Glover is a well-known movie actor, so people go, Julian Glover? Why, he was General Veers in The Empire Strikes Back. Well, he's been in a lot of things, and a lot of big Shakespearean things too, but people know the name Julian Glover. As I said, unlike Julian Glover, you wouldn't know this person, because it's mostly a theater actor. Most of his career is a theater actor. Well, I can reveal now that Jaehaerys is played by veteran British actor Michael Carter. And Michael Carter is, despite all his stage work, he's best well known for, in Star Wars Original Trilogy, in Return of the Jedi, Michael Carter was Bib Fortuna. He's, this distinguished stage actor, and he's under, like, hours worth of makeup. It took, like, hours to put on all this Twilight makeup. And he's not even speaking in English, but he took it seriously. He played his thing, but he thought, who would remember me for this? I was a minor role as an alien under heavy makeup, but he keep getting fan mail for it. He's nice. He comes to, like, the conventions and stuff, and it just...
I heard an amusing thing about there being a board that was on the floor as a mark, since you couldn't see where the marks were.
The first entrance, when the droids come down the big long corridor and Bib suddenly emerges and says, "Do you want a wanga?"
Yeah.
Well, the first time I tried that, I couldn't hear the marks, I couldn't see a thing, so they put a board, they put 2x4 bit of wood.
I didn't think people would notice this, but no, it's Bib Fortuna is Jaehaerys. So this is another person to add to the list of Star Wars actors in this. So that's pretty cool. Sean Brooke is Aemma Arryn, like I said, and the third and last new person in this is they even put in Ryan Redwine. That it's confirmed from the actor's resume on his website that this is Ryan Redwine, who is the Lord Commander of the Kingsguard before Harold Westerling. He was the Lord Commander late in the reign of Jaehaerys. He is one of the best knights that ever lived in terms of his jousting ability and his honor, though he briefly served his hand to the king for like a year, and he was really bad at it. He was infamously bad at it, to the point that when they made him resign, he agreed. He said, screw it, I'm bad at this. I'm better at the knight stuff. And everyone still liked him. It's just he was terrible as hand for like the year he served. And they always say, like, his fight with, it was the joust right at the end of Jaehaerys' reign, marking his 50th anniversary on the throne. Ryan broke 30 lances against someone else, and he was, like, the greatest display of chivalry and jousting ever. So he's only going to be in, like, one episode, but it's a nice Easter egg that they put Ryan Redwine in this. Remember House Redwine are Olenna Tyrell's family? That she was born Olenna Redwine? Well, who's playing Ryan Redwine? It says here it's actor Gary Cooper. Not the Gary Cooper, but a Gary Cooper, you understand. Now, one last thought here is that Emma Arryn is visibly pregnant in this, and based on other leaks, originally I thought, like months ago, that Emma was going to be pregnant with her second child at the Great Council, which doesn't happen in the books. Rhaenyra is like 3 years old at the time, but it's like another 2 years until Emma dies in childbirth to a son that barely lives a day. What we've heard is that they're moving things around due to the need to age up the younger cast members, and I fully agree. This is like when they had to age up Daenerys by 2 years because you can't legally show someone getting married and therefore having sex on UK television. Not the age of the actor, what matters is the age of the fictional character under UK law. USA law is different. So I fully accept that Rhaenyra is going to be older in this. And that moves around the timeline a little, and it's relative. So is the Great... I was talking about this in the live stream with History of Westeros, that does this mean the council is earlier or later? That'll be a question we have. It's always annoying. Game of Thrones really didn't even try to answer that, of getting the dates right, but I don't have a problem with aging them up. I knew they'd need to do this, that this isn't an issue. That what we've heard is that there's like 15 years that pass between the Great Council and Rhaenyra is like 14 or 15 when her mother dies. So what I think is happening is that this is Emma pregnant with Rhaenyra. And then there's going to be a relatively long time skip to Emma's death in childbirth around when Rhaenyra is like 15-ish, which is when most of Season 1 will be. So don't assume this is her pregnant with Balon, the baby who lasts a day, that we know they're playing with the timeline. So I thought we might see a child Rhaenyra at the Great Council of Harrenhal. Turns out, I think we're seeing Emma pregnant with Rhaenyra at the Great Council. I don't take issue with that. Fun thing, by the way, about the Great Council, I've been posting clips of the videos. If you haven't seen them, check it out. That I posted like a 30-second clip of Eve Best, who plays Rhaenys. She's describing who Rhaenys is, and she says, just because she's a woman, she got outvoted 20-1. So I think they will keep that detail in on-screen dialogue, which is important. That in the final round of the voting, it was down to 2 candidates. It was either Rhaenys and Rhaenys' son Laenor, his claim through her bloodline as a woman, or Viserys' direct male line descent. And the Velaryons lost by a landslide. They lost by like 20-1. It was supposed to be a secret ballot. You know, the whole, oh, this election is stolen, let's have a recount. And like the Maesters pulled them aside and said, look, it's supposed to be a secret ballot, but if it'll prevent a civil war, let me tell you, you lost by a factor of 20-1. The only great houses that supported you were the Baratheons and the Starks. And then, when you consider all the vassal houses, it was 20-1. It's not worth even contesting. Wasn't even close. And the Velaryons grudgingly go, well, we lost so definitively, it would be crazy to try to fight this, so maybe we'll try to marry in the next generation or something, that we're clearly not going to win this. So I like that they're keeping that detail in some fashion. I don't know how they're going to work it in dialogue, but the detail of, you lost by 20-1. That's why they didn't try to spark a civil war at the time. That will apparently be in dialogue with the Great Council. So this is the casting news we have now. I don't think we'll see Alysanne. They might mention Alysanne. She had died already by this point. Septon Barth had already died. That's not Septon Barth. That must be the High Septon, we think. But that's the casting info we have now, which is exciting, which just came out of this report.